Hello viewers, Marianne from Revealing Light Tarot. I wanted to do a 19 update. I've really avoided reading too frequently on this because I don't want to add to the general panic out there. So I try and keep my readings balanced and sane, and not follow conspiracy theories. I do know that the breaking news out of the New York Times is that Trump has suspended flights in and out of Europe for the next 30 days. We haven't done that in Australia yet, but watch the Australian government move that way. Of course, the biggest, I guess in Australia, the biggest consideration, one of the biggest not considerations, but the biggest juggling game for our Prime Minister is to not to send us into a recession, which is what is being predicted, but also once those numbers start to escalate, the grim reality starts to hit that the only way to contain this is to stop movement. And so, what I wanted to do was look at trade today. What does this mean for trade routes, for trade agreements, for the way that things might operate in the future? Is it going to be a risk assessment now? For example, those in the public service or in government, when they're compiling what we call free trade agreements with certain countries, may start to look at the distance, and also start to look at in China, for example, which is the epicenter of this outbreak. Of course, this came apparently from a wet market, and China has now banned the eating of all wild animals as a result. There are theories around how this virus got out. I'm not going to touch those today. I'm just going to stay on the straight and narrow here. Let's have a look at, this is sort of like an update for, 19. I think in Australia we're getting similar kind of spread. It's now community spread. I think WHO has finally, the World Health Organization, finally calling it a pandemic now. And so we've got community spread, which means that we don't know where the point of origin was. It's not necessarily a traveller coming back. This is person-to-person spread. So a lot of people are being very sensible and limiting their outings, but I also noticed that the NBA is cancelling I think the rest of it's, well, actually, I'll go back and put a link to that. But what you're going to see is big sporting events will start to be scaled back. Big events of any sort, music concerts, they're just not going to go ahead in this environment. So, of course, the revenue that's being generated from all of those things, as we realise the only way to stop this and contain this is to stop movement, you're going to get a huge impact on the economy. We might also take a look at the stock market, how it's weathering the 19 storm. So let's get started on our update here. Again, sensible precautions. You've heard from your health departments, the value of washing your hands. Some have given on this forum wonderful recipes for homemade hand sanitizers as well. So places like this can actually be a good source of information, as hand sanitizers from chemists and supermarkets completely sell out. You're not without power. You can make your own, and it's probably going to be better for you. So let's take a look. My phone's turned off or on airplane mode. If it rings, sometimes it will cut into the reading. So let's go to the Trump White House first and see, is the Trump government now pulling back on information delivery and trying to muddy the waters, questioning the figures that are being released, and the 19 spread, pulling those experts away from briefings in Congress, trying to limit the kind of information. Really, it's all about stopping the information flow, stopping the political damage to Trump in an election year, which is like crazy stuff. So let's just see, is the Trump government up to the task of managing 19. Is the Trump government up to the task of managing 19? They're putting barriers. What I'm seeing is fences and guards. They're putting barriers everywhere, including to information. That's their strategy. Put the barrier up so you can't see through. 9, the Two of Coins. This card, interestingly enough, has been coming forward in my Trump readings for a little while now. I wonder if that was a predictor of 19 and the way that he would have to juggle, including the economy, as a result of 19 and how it's impacting worldwide, not just in the US. This is leaders everywhere. Look at the tightrope they're on. You know what the tightrope does. The other aspect of this card is manipulation, okay? So when someone is in that kind of state, when they're balancing on a tightrope, they're going to do anything really to keep their balance. All right, so that's the task for him, to keep balance. All right, what is challenging that is information for the public good. That is the challenge here. So in a way, he is forced to give information because it'll come from the states, it'll come from watchdogs. If he withholds information, it's going to rebound on him in a politically, very damagingly so. The Queen of Cups, though, at the same time, in trying to put the boundaries up, this is not something you can hide. The more the numbers come out from various sources, the more it then causes him to really walk that balancing act. So there's our Queen of Cups again. She's always been the threat here for the Trump government. We thought she was a woman initially. She was, but this is now many other things. Okay, teamwork. The foundation of the reading is teamwork. This is rebuilding something after fire has wrecked it. This is constructing something. The foundations have got to be very strong. So teamwork. Is he working? Is he working with everybody? I'll draw a clarifier on that because I don't think, I think that's one of his flaws here. The 9 of Cups, which is the Miracle Wish card. Nobody would wish this 19 on anybody, but this is kind of like the dream run in a way that all governments have had, that 19 is exposing and bringing to an end. Partisanship, unfortunately, is the biggest threat here to the effectiveness of his handling of 19. He's putting up obstacles and challenges. You know, we all know that clear heads, clear information, bipartisan approaches, letting the experts talk, disseminating the information, working with your state governments, that's all the way for good management, assembling a team of experts. But no, it's beyond him, and it's going to get worse. I'm sorry to have to say that. It's going to get worse in that regard. The Sun card, though, in the immediate future, that's interesting. I think that points to your summer months in the US. You'll probably, I don't know, it can also be full transparency as well. But it could be, I don't know what the experts have said about the way 19 might behave in the warmer months. But I do know I did watch an interview with an expert who said the sunlight is like a natural sanitizer. And so walking, even though you think you've got to stay indoors, taking that walk away from crowds, in the sunlight, in the fresh air, keeping your, what they call now, social distance, in the warmer months is probably going to be beneficial. I'm not going to say this reading is a tarot card reading. It's not a cure-all, but we've got the Sun card here. You know, and I do get the pull to warmer weather. I am also getting full transparency as well. So what the other meaning or the layer here is that this card talks about illumination or shining the light on this rank. I'm just going to call it rank partisanship. That seems to be a very strong meaning. Able to handle the economy is where their focus is at now. It's all on the dollar. But this is also my card for the Congress as well, and for Pelosi. You're going to see more and more the Democratic Party in the House finding another lane outside of the federal government lane to get information out, but also move budgetary measures forward. I felt that Pelosi was looking at this sort of response. That's where she's going to be putting, or that's where the Democrats in the House are going to be putting their focus. They're almost going to run with an alternative way of managing this virus. This is the fear. The big fear is the banks, the stock market. But look what we've got. We've got the Ace of Cups. So I'm really liking the fact that this reading can bring us together, that this is unity. This is stepping away from this and having creating this new start. The King of Wands, putting the focus onto leadership. That's and showing us where the insecurity is, showing us where the Achilles heels are, showing us that this kind of energy here is actually just going to make things worse. This card has been coming up more and more for Trump. Let's have a look at what's at the base of the pack. It sure is hard work for him. They're struggling. And I guess, to be fair, any government is struggling at the moment, no matter what, because it is about trade. It is about trade. But with Trump, unfortunately, there is the voter that he is, that's my Ten of Cups for my family card. There is that voter aspect to him, hence we've got the partisanship. But we do have the Magician card, and this is actualizing something else into reality. It's actually actualizing, I do feel, the end of the Trump regime. And we've got the Four of Swords, that's retreat, and illness as well. So I feel that the 19 is here for a reason, to shine a light very much onto these kind of energies, and put them instead onto new starts and leadership that we're looking for in the situation that we've got. We're wanting good leadership. And look, someone who was savvy would understand that and sing from a different book. But no, not Donald Trump. So no, he's not up to the task, because he is looking at this as a political situation, and it's not. Okay, let's have a look at what this will mean. Well, let's take a look at the stock market at the moment. Let's take a look at the stock market. What's happening with the stock market? Of course, whatever happens in the US stock exchange reverberates right around the world. Your stock market recovers, so does Australia's. Let's have a look at the stock market. Let's have a look at the financial situation at the moment. What's happening with the stock market, the banks, businesses, what's happening here. There's a lot of fear, I think, and a lot of panic that people are trying to keep a lid on. Show me the stock market, the financial sector. Show me the stock market and the financial sector in the US as a result of 19. Wow, we've got abuse of power. I've done readings on this before, but I have felt that there's been a manipulation in the stock market. We know that Treasury has been propping up the stock market and injecting funds here. But this is also Trump's abuse of power is actually impacting on the stock market. These are heavy forces, heavy choices, compromises that are needed. So people will be selling off stocks. And we've got the Emperor. It's all about faith in the leader, unfortunately, and things getting out of control with the Chariot. The Wheel of Fortune. Things will start to improve in the longer run, but this denotes a journey, a fairly fast, forward-moving journey. that really is affecting people's savings, people's retirement plans, the money that they might have had in the bank. We do have the Knight of Wands. That's a plan that needs to be made to really to shelter and stave off financial recession. We've got the High Priestess. There seems to be more that needs to be done in America. And one of the things is this abuse of power. We've got the Two of Wands. This is a crossroad. Choices need to be made. Choices will be made about investment streams, about shares, where you're putting your money. What's at the base of the pack? We've got the King of Swords, which is an investigation, a legal type of courts, attorneys, but we do have loans and debts as well. So I'm thinking around the banking sector, and we've got some kind of wound, being wounded in battle, retreat. This is not going to be easy for people. It's going to take working together to really unify, as much as handling the physical effects of 19, as much energy needs to go through to the handling the financial markets and creating that that new pathway there, which allows people to move through, even though times will be tough, but to move on and to find this balance. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done, absolutely, with this 10 of Wands. So at the moment, what's spooking the stock market is the way that Trump is managing this crisis. It's as simple as that. And so across the world, if I were to go to Australia, if I were to go to the UK, leaders will be looking at what the American lesson is telling us economically, because it has a flow through economically. Markets will stabilise when they have faith in the leadership. When I say stabilise, they're not going to suddenly rebound and become as strong, but they will weather the storm and move through the choppy waters with strong leadership. All right, let's have a look at what this is going to mean for trade routes. Now, when I started this reading, I talked about risk assessments. So if you're trading with a country that, has the, the ability to have some kind of outbreak that will shut down markets, then of course, everyone's going to be taking a second look at it. China, in this case, will slow the Chinese economy. That will again reverberate across the world. What's this going to mean for trade in the future? What's this going to mean for trade agreements, trade pacts, trade partners, trading in the future, including the ability to produce for yourself? So in your own country, producing what you need for yourself. In Australia, we thankfully still produce food, although China has just bought our biggest milk producer co-op, dairy farmers, unfortunately. So, Australia's clean, green standards and image as a food producer is world renowned. But of course, we're selling, unfortunately, in our government's incompetencies, we're selling off what we grow here, giving our best produce overseas to our markets. And of course, that's affecting what we consume here as Australians. So there's been a move to counter that into niche markets. So people are producing, for example, honey was a case in point. We sold our best honey overseas, and we started giving our Australian consumers watered down honey, syrup, bees fed with syrup, and of course that produces an inferior honey. And consumers retaliated, and we had beekeepers, the small beekeepers, again starting to trade at local markets, produce for their local consumer networks, and of course we then got access to the best honey. So some of this is going to change the way that we do things. So farmers markets tending to come away from the big supermarkets, looking for quality produce, homegrown sort of things. So let's have a look at how this might affect trade. How will 19 affect trade? I'm going to see lots of loss, but I'm seeing a balancing out, a temperance, okay? So where before it was okay to trade and do an agreement where we get our orange juice from Brazil while we were burning our own orange trees, we're going to be thinking a lot more seriously about how we do things, how we trade. The Two of Cups, unity. Networks, partnerships. Again, I talked about that community-to-community network, those smaller niche markets starting to take hold, moving away from the bulk mass kind of buying. We've got the Hierophant institutions, that is government. So let's keep going. That's the foundation of the reading. What does it mean to govern? What is government? Unfortunately, we have death in the past position, so endings. We're really going to be throwing open a lot to innovation and rethinking in future years as a result of 19. The Magician, there is going to be, again, there's some sort of manipulation here of markets. We know it. That's going to be less acceptable. The Queen of Coins. Trade becomes almost a matter of national security. I guess that's the biggest change, that we're having to wake up about what it means to govern. How does trade impact on our national security? If we can't import things, then we're left stranded. So we're getting more balance, perhaps more risk assessment are coming forward, because we're actually seeing the truth, unfortunately, of a situation here. Because trade has been suspended. Overseas trade, well, when I say trade has been suspended, we've got ships that can't get into ports. We've got factories that can't produce things because workers are sick with 19. Everything is in a state of flux. The hopes and the fears, going back to the Six of Cups, going back to the past, not throwing out the old ways as we rush forward in the pursuit of the almighty dollar. We're going to be looking at what worked for us in the past, because that is the way that we will regain our footing. Look, we've got these new starts. 19 is going to bring forward many, many lessons for us. And it is karmic and it is justice that this is happening. When something is out of balance, when something is no longer working for us, when we strayed so far from what is practical, what is sensible, what is life-affirming, what is nurturing, what is... I'm just come back to the word practical. We strayed so far away from that we get a situation like we've got now, where we've got so many shortages. That which is taken away is regained. And so there's a huge learning here for us in relation to trade. And partisanship. And we've got illumination. And we've got somebody being wounded. And we've got somebody who is holding back, I guess, markets, money, power for themselves, the greedy merchant. We've got the Tower moment. And so there will be huge change coming as a result in trade, as a result of 19. They were good cards. I was worried that they would show me the economic downturn, but they haven't. They've showed me something else. All right, just a quick throw on the various leaders before I finish here. We'll go to, well, we've done Donald Trump. We've seen that it's all about partisanship for him, and that it's a political nightmare for him, and he's putting up it's a huge barrier fence and posting the guards at the gate. That's his approach. All right, let's move to the UK, to Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson. What's happening with Johnson? I get the feeling that he's sort of almost a little bit surprised that this has kind of happened on his watch. I don't think that he was expecting his prime ministership to begin almost. He's had Brexit and now this. So it's almost like has he got an albatross around his neck. So show me what he's certainly, I think, UK viewers, please do comment. He seems to be, there seems to be a free flow of information, but let's just have a look. How is Boris Johnson in the UK handling the 19 crisis? Johnson, UK 19. Page of Pentacles. That's not a mature. It's not a King of Pentacles. This is almost trying to get a grasp on what's going on. Brexit. He's trying to negotiate Brexit. Now we've had this. What's happening with our trade routes and our trade agreements? Bang! It's landed him in this kind of very not mature energy. He's been challenged by illusion and delusion. So these aren't necessarily good cards. The UK had a lot on its plate before we even got to 19. And these cards are showing that. Sword of Truth is the foundation of the reading. This is going to bring out a truth. You know, where we had partisanship, it's almost like a big reality check there. Too much coming forward too quickly. As I said, it's like he feels like, wow, I did Brexit, or I'm in the process of doing Brexit, and now this. It's just, is he going to be able to control the Chariot? And we've still got pages, which means that this is a young government. It's not an experienced government, and this is also somebody coming out with bombshells. Something's going to be leaked around the UK financial situation and trade situation. We've got some kind of leak coming out, and there is a tower. There is a tower moment. Negotiating Brexit in the middle of 19, very, very foolhardy, pulling the UK out. It's just the tower moment. Right now, though, we have the 9 of Cups. This is the miracle card. This is wish fulfillment. Okay, so everybody got what they wanted, but the tower is still in the immediate future. Boris Johnson was elected. Well, not everybody got what they wanted, but Brexit was accomplished, or is in the process of being accomplished. But look, we've got judgment around the 9 of Cups as well. So this is something coming to an inevitable end. Remembering that I drew the Justice card for Johnson there, and I had to go back and have a look what the Justice card meant. The fear, there's a real fear here around trade agreements and trade in the UK, the supply of things, ships coming in. I think people were hoarding before with Brexit, and we've got the wounded and retreat, and the Magician card, actualizing something into reality, and it's a choice, a heavy choice to be made. So Johnson has heavy choices, and there are very, very serious financial considerations here for the UK, and Johnson I'm not saying out of his depth, but he's drawn a couple of pages. He's got the tower, and he's got the Ace of Swords. He does have at the base of the pack, we've got the Empress card. Now, there has been some breaking news around his connections with, this is just tarot reading, with Russia. We had that report that didn't come out before the election, and so we have that rearing its other head, its head again. We do have the 10 of Wands. That is carrying a heavy load. Unfortunately, we have the Knight of Swords. This is a Libra, again another Justice energy, and we do have the World, some kind of truth coming out. So I feel Johnson's got a huge, huge, huge job in front of him. He's grappling with it at the moment. There could be some kind of news coming out which will cause a tower moment for him. So he's got not just 19 on his plate, he's he's got Brexit as well, and he's got the past, his behaviour, what he's done in the past as well, on his plate as well. So I feel that there is something coming out which will wound him on top of 19. Okay, let's go to, where are we, 30 now. Let's go to Scott Morrison in Australia for my loyal Australian viewers. Canada, I don't know how Trudeau is handling this crisis, but I haven't heard much in the news for Canada, which tells me that you know, he must be doing a reasonable job. We'll go to now. Germany is predicting a huge spike. Europe is being hit hard here as well. We'll actually we'll look we'll look at Scott Morrison, the Australian Prime Minister, the Australian government. How are they handling 19? Australian government, how are they handling 19? Page of Wands again. This is this kind of immature. It's not a kingly approach. They're trying. We've got the Queen of Swords. They're having a go with making sure there's good information that's coming out. We've got the Queen of Cups. They're coming forward as quite nurturing. They're not holding information back. And they're coming forward on the front foot with quite a strong approach. What's at the base of the pack? He's come off. He's learnt the hard way through the bushfire tragedies where partisanship gets you. He is trying for unity, but we have the Hermit card, investigation, reflection, also isolation. His biggest challenge may be that he's not closing the borders quickly enough. So he's going to come under a threat. Again, another page. He hasn't quite been experienced enough, or something that he just didn't quite step up, because we do have the Death card and we do have the 10 of Swords, which is downfalls, and we do have high levels of anxiety. So his Achilles heel will be around trying to push the economy and not acting strongly enough. So it will be around containment. It's going to come back to bite him. Let's just quickly go to Europe, because I'm here at 32 minutes. European leaders. Now, I know Italy has completely closed its borders. I think we're going to get that in Europe now. We're going to see a closing of borders. All right, so show me Europe. How is Europe handling? 3 cards. How is Europe handling this crisis? I feel that that's what there's obstacles, challenges, partisanship as well in Europe. But we do have this Ace of Cups. I feel this is sort of almost countries going back and saying, okay, we're going to do what we have to do for our own citizens. So there could be, and we've got the Sun card, there could be while there is going to be retreat, isolation, that we've still got a cup left here with this 4 of Cups, and we've got this Knight of Wands. So I feel that Europe will come forward with some fairly strong plans if they're not thwarted by this kind of partisan attitude that we're seeing coming out of the States. All right, my disc is almost full. That's what my computer is telling me. So I'm going to leave off now. Hope you enjoyed that 19 update, and I'll be back with another reading soon. Thank you.